Tonight we will examine concepts that may challenge your perception of the world around you. Strange creatures, chilling tales, and the occasional conspiracy. Here on our show, we will attempt to provide you with paranormal insight. Last time on Paranormal Insight, Vikki and Ken tell us their story.
I'm Vikki. I was on a TV show about 15 years ago called Psychic Kids.
Let's briefly step back. Vikki's a psychic and Ken's the dad.
She apparently remembers trips to Disneyland that she was never on.
When I was younger, I did see spirits. I wasn't sure what they were. I was seeing shadows in my room and little bodies moving around my bedroom. I would get overwhelming feelings in certain parts of the house. I told my mom about this and I said, I feel like there was a boy, a teenager, and I feel like he's really, really sad. And unbeknownst to me at the time, the previous owners, their son had passed away in a drowning. On the TV show, they had us working on a missing persons case. When the TV show came out, it caught the attention of a local police department. And the sergeant gave me a call and he asked if I wanted to come in and work on a current missing persons case. I said yes. And he said, what do you need from me? And I said, just a picture and a name. So he sent that information over. And so I started writing down some real random words. Didn't make sense to me. I filled out a whole page of words. I sent the picture to the sergeant and he said, I'm going to call you back. An hour later, he said, all right, I'm on so-and-so street, which was one of the random names that I had thrown out on there. Greenhouse, which I had written down. I talked to the woman that answered the door, and her name was a name that I had written down. Her husband works for the school, which is something that I had written down. He had seen her talking to so-and-so at school. And so we're going to bring in that kid and see if she knows anything. Is it okay if I come pick you up? And we do a little drive around. And I said, sure. So he came and he picked us up. He's like, okay, now you direct me. Just tell me where to go and I'll go there. And I said, okay. So I'm directing him into this town. And then suddenly I point at a house and I go, that house. So we actually end up reconvening at a Starbucks. And he says, so I need to tell you something. That was her house. After seeing the house and getting a few more impressions off of that, I was able to tell she's not dead. 3 days later, I got a call and he said, yep, she reached out. She was staying at a woman's shelter and we went and picked her up. Yeah, so working on a missing persons case was huge for me.
And now we will continue with part 2 of Vikki and Ken's story.
And after all of that, I pretty much, I stopped being as scared because like you said about how you with your first experience, I've always been terrified. I'm still terrified. Like if I hear something walking down the hallway here, it's like, oh, okay, they live with me too. It's fine. Just don't look. Just don't look.
Don't look.
I just don't want to know.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that.
After working with the police, I was more open to doing things like doing the investigations and stuff. And I got to go to Paracon in Las Vegas, which was great.
Cool.
She's a celebrity.
Yeah. I got to sign autographs.
All right.
I got to do a talk. It was an awesome experience. And I had just turned 21 and it was in Las Vegas.
All right.
So it was awesome. I got to bring the whole family with me and we got to meet some really cool people. So the cool part about that was that we got to do an investigation at night at an old casino called Binion's.
Oh.
And Binion's has been like abandoned.
It used to
at
be
this
the
point.
Horseshoe back in the day.
Was it?
Okay, I was going to ask about that, but yeah, I've heard stories about that casino. But go ahead.
So they had a lot of mob activity going on at that casino.
Yep.
And I'm already pretty spooked. I mean, if I could have it my way, I would only deal with things that are happy hauntings. Just happy things. And so going into a room where
What's a happy haunting?
Yeah. Going into a room where, you get the impression that somebody's been beheaded here. Oh look, there's a laundry chute that the mob paid for them to build in, so for this exact purpose of dumping bodies.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Love to be here.
Thanks for the invite.
I made it through about 2 rooms in that hotel, and I only got one actual ghost spirit come to me, and it was a showgirl, which is so stereotypical, and it was so great. And
did she have the headdress on and everything, or
that's how I pictured her, but she had ended up, I think, passing away in that room, but not on good terms, obviously. But I would get this impression of her getting ready in there before going to work, and that she basically lived in that room. And so lovely, so great. And then this guy walks in who's just got this angry presence to himself, a person. And he comes in, and the whole room just suddenly physically feels like it just darkens. And she's gone. She has left the chat. She left the building. She didn't want to be anywhere near this guy. And
this is a living person or another spirit that walks in?
Person came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me describe it from the outside perspective. Okay. I was sitting there, and she's in the room with several other psychics, and they're all just having a party with this spirit of the showgirl. It's just like a room full of kids. They're chatting and laughing and all this stuff. Oh, she's happy. She's glad to see us here and all this stuff. And then one of he's a host of a reality show that everybody would recognize.
Okay.
Paranormal stuff. And he comes in, but he's an ex-cop. And he comes in, and every one of them said, "Ooh, she doesn't like him. Yeah, he's a cop. Don't stop talking." And he looks around the room, and he goes, "All right, I'll leave."
This hotel or casino at the time was not filled with law-abiding citizens. It went through a few rooms, and it wasn't until we got to one room where both mom and I had a bad reaction to the room, and it was apparently one of the main mob
torture
rooms.
Ooh.
Yeah, torture rooms. And I just couldn't control myself. I started crying. A really wonderful guy who's been on Ghost Adventures a couple of times, he came up and he said, "It's okay, I'll walk you out."
Oh.
And he walked Mom and I out, and he sat us down at a bar at a different casino, and we had a great time the rest of the night. But
they went to the Golden Nugget across the
way.
Oh,
there you go. That's always a nice time.
While the rest of the investigation.
I had reached my emotional limit at that point. There's such a dirty side of Vegas that, you hear about and everything, but to actually feel it is just the visceral yuck of it is awful.
I bet.
So that's just an example of, one of those things where you go into a room and it just doesn't feel right.
I've been there.
We did a daddy-daughter trip to San Francisco, and he wanted to show me his favorite places on Haight-Ashbury that he used to go to as a kid, and he had a great story about his best friend. And we went to a shop that they had visited while we were there. Now it's a completely different store, and I was able to stand there and tell Dad, "Oh yeah, so the display case was across here, and back here was a private area, and this is where the tarantulas were, and all of the stuff." And
it was a 1970s head shop.
Nice.
Tell her about our visit with Chris in San Francisco.
Oh yeah. So years later, Chris, my mentor,
Chris Fleming.
yes,
Gotcha.
he was visiting. He was doing a chat at the Art Institute in San Francisco.
Fun.
And so I was so excited to see him again. We bought tickets and we went. We listened to his chat. And
We surprised him.
Yes.
We did.
And,
Nice.
it was great. So he did his whole seminar, which was wonderful. He described things in great detail about his growing up and everything. And then we did a little walk, a little investigation in one of the school buildings for the Institute. So he's got the spirit box again, and he's got a whole group of people, we're all surrounding him, and he's talking to the spirit box saying, all right, let's get some impressions. And in the background, I'm telling mom and dad and whoever's standing around me, like, this is an old bordello.
Yeah, it was the building in the 1800s, I believe.
Yeah, which turned out to check out. Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
And
that's awesome.
It again, stereotypical. I'm feeling the mistress, and I think her name is Sarah. And we're chatting about this in the background quietly, and Chris is talking to the spirit box, and spirit box is rambling and whatever. He says, all right, can you give me a name of whoever is here? And the spirit box just yells, Sarah. And so we're all in the background giggling.
We did that before you did. That's outstanding. Go ahead.
Oh, San Francisco is it's the coolest, creepiest place I've ever been.
Have you ever been to Alcatraz?
Oh,
yes.
Oh, okay. Tell me about Alcatraz. Okay, go ahead.
So, another fun daddy-daughter trip that we did. We went to Alcatraz. We got there. You get the headsets and everything, and we're going around, and some of the areas, you get the yuck feeling, and some of the areas, you really get the opposite. And as you're listening to the headphones, they're talking about how families used to live there. And it wasn't always a prison. It was a base, I think, a military base.
Yeah.
There were schools there, there were kids there. We got to the prison part, and that's where I started. It was so overwhelming. Not sadness or anger or anything, just overwhelming, just everything all at once. And then they have one of the cells open that you can stand in. And he wanted to take a picture of me standing in the cell. So, of course, I went in there. And I just didn't want to think about all of the stuff behind me. That was one of those things where I'm going to go in, I'm going to take the picture, I'm not going to look around.
Okay.
I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to take this picture, and you get just the heebie-jeebies behind you. Like, I'm just not going to turn around.
Okay.
I don't want to know. I'm in and I'm out.
Yeah.
And
Right.
We went in and we went out, and that was it. And I was done.
Yeah, we went through the medical room with all of the tables and stuff. Dude, we were kind of looking for trouble, basically.
Yeah.
And I was taking pictures to try and see if I could capture any of these things that people say, you capture with pictures. And I only got a couple of pictures that really were pretty cool. I was taking a picture of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the what do they call it? Grand Central or whatever the main drag is there for the cells. And there in one picture is this big Christmas ball like orb in the air. And you think, well, it's just a piece
Maybe
of
it's
dust.
Yeah.
So I took another picture from a different angle, and the
Still
same
there.
one is in the
Yeah.
same spot.
You definitely got something, it sounds like.
That one is unusual.
Yeah, that was a great trip. But again, super creepy. I get that feeling a lot. Like, I'll be anywhere in the house. Our house is haunted here. A lot of places are. You just don't realize it.
Right.
But I'll be laying in bed and I'll just get this feeling like, you know what? I don't want to turn around. I don't want to know what's behind me. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to see if somebody's in the hallway. My first experience when we first moved here was I was standing in our hallway upstairs and I saw my dog. My dog is a large black shepherd, and I saw him and he walked down the hallway towards my office. And I thought, well, that's weird. He doesn't go anywhere without my husband or I. And so I got I came out of my room and I walked down the hallway and I followed him into my office and I looked around. He's not there. And I'm thinking, well, what the heck? I just watched him. I just saw like his little shadow go by. I just watched him go into my office. There's nowhere else he could have gone.
Right.
And I'm looking around in my office and I don't see him. And so I call him and I say, Obi, and he comes running from downstairs up the stairs and is like, yes, what would you like? So I followed something into my office and I don't know what it is.
You said it was a black dog?
That's what it looked like to me. That's what it registered as. Was just the dark, it was like a dark shadow. So, in your peripherals, it's like, oh, that's just my dog walking around.
But it was on all fours. It was that height?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Might not have been a dog.
It could have been a dog for all I know. But yeah, I definitely followed that into my office, but I don't like my office here. It is spooky.
Okay.
I walk in and I swear to you, things just start falling off of walls and it's awful. And I don't know how much of that is me and how much of that is just something yucky in there. I don't know.
Right.
Blame it on commands.
Yeah.
Leave it what?
Blame it on command sticks.
The
little sticky things that you command sticks.
Gotcha. Well, actually, that kind of leads me in a really bizarre way into the other side, potentially the other side of your abilities. Is there a spiritual aspect to this? Do you have a guide, that type of thing?
So I don't have a guide per se. For a while I had my grandma, and I would have dreams where she would tell me stuff, and that was pretty much it was just, little things, like little helpful things here and there, like, you know what, make sure you go to school tomorrow, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Things like that. But as an adult, I never really had that. It's really my own self in my head, really, that things pop up here and there. And it's always random. It's never anything expected. It's always completely random. Like, oh, you know what you should do today? You should go do this. And it works out in the end.
Yeah. My limited abilities, experiences rather, have been also largely mundane things. I don't know if you heard the episode where I talk about the high school incident where I had a complete precognitive experience, and it was stupid. It was over a flag football game.
Yeah.
It's just really mundane stuff. And it was...
That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, nothing exciting. It was like there's an asteroid that hits off the coast of this country. And,
no lottery
call the Coast Guard and say, evacuate that town. But no, that's not what happens. It's just mundane and weird. And
yeah.
She freaked out the police sergeant one time. He's fully into it and everything. And we had gotten back from doing one of the patrols with him. And she gets out of the car and she looks at him and she says, and don't worry about your daughter. It's not a big deal. She'll get over it. I mean, just out of the blue, she pulls that out of her head. And he just had to stop and shake his head, because apparently he had this big daddy-daughter teenager argument when he dropped her off at schoal. Oh. And somehow she picked up on it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Some residual feelings there.
Yeah, I understand. Let me ask you this. Have you experienced what I don't know if I invented this term, but I call it the wall. No, not from Pink Floyd. It happens when you're outside of a specific space, like a home or a building, and as soon as you cross the threshold, it's like, oh, something off is going on inside. I don't know if you've ever experienced that or not.
For me, I get different feelings in different areas. I don't know if it necessarily has a boundary. I've never really paid attention to that, but you walk into a house and suddenly it's like, whoa,
that's what I'm talking about.
Awful.
I think when you did the Binions thing, that was the most obvious one that we saw.
Well, it's the most horrific place I've ever been.
She walked in a doorway, and it was like instantaneous that she just
So, okay, where was this again?
So Binions?
Binions, the Nugget, the horseshoe, the casino.
Oh, yeah,
When she
okay,
went up to
gotcha.
the boss room, it was just night and day for her.
Yeah.
And that kind of for Chuck and I, who were along with her, my son and I, and Bernice, we're just walking along and we're looking, this is pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, she's just crying and
nope, not going in there. Yeah, not going in there.
By walking into a doorway. And it just really
you get
strange.
Overwhelming smells and feelings.
Yeah. Wow.
Smells is where I get a lot of
it's like she witnesses or feels what happened there.
Yeah.
Not specifically, seeing it happen, but feels it. I mean, from what she's described. And they were pretty quick to usher her out. What's his name? Angry Joe, Angry Bob, something like
Angry
that.
Joe.
Yeah, he's another celeb from the shows, but he was just kind of helping out at the.
He was great.
Gotcha.
And I thought, see, me not being a psychic, I watched this from maybe your angle, and I'm watching her, and she goes up with all the celebs, because they said, okay, celebrities get up here and we're all going to distribute you to various rooms. She walks up there and here's all these reality show people all lined up in a row. And she walks up there and she says, "Hi, I'm Vikki. What are you famous for?"
Here's a quick word from our sponsors. The Seekers of California for Ethereal Research and Investigation. We investigate hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and offer cleansing and clearing. Don't get scared, call Scary. Serving the greater San Jose area and beyond. Call us at 408-320-8467. That's 408-320-8467. Scary Paranormal Investigations. And now, back to the show. Oh, okay. Let me take you back to, you said it was Chris Fleming who taught you to just write things down?
Yeah.
Do you know if Chris has a background in working with the CIA?
Chris does not.
Okay.
Some of the other people that have been on some of the shows, other shows do.
FBI.
FBI and CIA.
Okay.
But Chris not so much.
Okay.
He's more freelance.
Gotcha. The reason I ask is because that methodology of just writing down what you're seeing is right out of the playbook of a lot of these, the old psychic remote viewers.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting enough, not too far away from where we lived in Cupertino is where they did a lot of the remote viewings.
Yep, the Blue Cube.
Where I was, right, I think the year I was born too. And so I think that I think that there was some inspiration from that kind of remote viewing that he would, because he did talk about that with us and kind of teach us how to initiate that. And that's, right up my alley of what I can do and perceiving things from out of somebody else's eyes. So yeah, the writing things down as they came, that was probably one of the most helpful things.
Yeah.
Because I never thought of that. And it's, to me, some things just sound like gibberish and they pop up in my head and I think, well, I'm wacko. Okay, fine, whatever. But, you write it down and it makes sense to somebody else and it makes them feel better. So I'm all for it.
and that's one of the things that really made me feel good about the reality show thing that she was on. And it wasn't just pure, marketing. It was that they actually had a psychologist on set. They actually had Chris telling them how to use this and not to be afraid of this and not to be afraid of that.
Yeah.
And, they actually used it as a kind of a teaching thing, and they filmed it so that they could get a little audience for it. And I think that was great.
Yeah,
we didn't get a dime out of it, of course. No. We were free help, but
yeah, the second episode went much the way as the first one did, except for I got to be the mentor with Chris there. and that was nice. And the kids that we got to work with were really great. And
One of them
actually,
was awesome.
Ryan, I think has taken over for the show. When they rebooted Psychic Kids, he took over as the mentor, and he did a great job.
Yeah.
Wait, is it on now?
No,
it was I think a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, they rebooted it, but yeah, he was great. He was very intuitive.
Oh man, this guy he was crazy scary.
He drew a depiction of an area that we were about to go to that we didn't know about, with a shipping crate with a letter written on it, to a T.
Wow.
While he's in a car.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, okay, good, you're on my level. Let's go.
Let's party. One thing I really want to kind of dive into a little bit is kind of an abilities checklist. What can Vikki do? And so, psychic, I mean, you can read the past. We know that much. Mm-hmm. You can read, you can see through other people's eyes, and there's a name for that, and it escapes me, basically. And now, can you project ahead and see the future? I think we discussed that briefly.
I think it happened, sorry. I think it's happened a couple of times, but I don't remember. Psychometry is one that they talked about, where you have an item and you feel the item and you get impressions from that.
Yeah.
So psychometry, the whole astral projection thing is, I don't know exactly what the specifics of that are, but that's something that I've felt I've been able to do.
That would actually. Sorry, go ahead.
Just contacting people that have passed. Sometimes it's a conscious contacting, and I'm getting actual feedback from them, and sometimes it's just a feeling.
The psychometry thing is one of those items or one of the subjects that they covered with her on
the
Psychic
show.
Kids.
Yeah.
On the show. They had somebody who was experienced with it and said, okay, this is what you're trying to do and with what. And they used it as one of the aids in locating the clues for the missing person that they were.
Yeah, so we had a T-shirt and a picture.
And that's why she asked for a picture when she was doing the missing persons.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So it's really more of, I don't know what I can't do yet, other than there's no future.
No lottery wins here.
Yeah,
sorry.
No.
That's my next question.
No.
There are a few things where, in hindsight, okay, I called that. And it's mostly just that. It's like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. But I don't write it down, so there's no proof of anything. But it's like, oh, yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
You should do those, what are those called? Those TikToks. It's like, here's today's predictions.
Yeah, exactly.
And to just see what happens. See what kind of a 9 out of 10 you get on that.
Yeah. Random. Maybe better than random. Who knows?
But there have been some weird ones recently, and I don't remember them at all.
Maybe you should write them down.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe I should. It's always one of those things where you get the feeling, I should really write this down. And then I don't, and then I forget about it, and then the thing happens, and then it's like, well, there it goes.
Maybe an earthquake.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Animals, I almost forgot. I can connect with animals very easily. I have not met an animal that I don't like and that doesn't like me yet.
Tarantulas,
horses?
go. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I swore I connected with a cockroach once.
Really?
But dogs, cats, they flock to me sometimes.
We all have that capability.
Even he's got a very sensitive ability to link with animals. Dogs, I can feel where they're injured. That's another thing that I forgot about. I can feel when somebody's injured or is sick. I can
She's an empath. She's an empath.
Okay.
The thing that they caught on to early in the reality show Hunt is just she's empathetic.
Yeah.
Very
But yeah, I can feel for injuries. My grandpa was a Reiki master.
No kidding.
And yeah, so my mom did Reiki on me as a kid, so I think that maybe that kind of opened me up to the idea of being able to feel things out. Whenever one of our dogs is injured or something, I can usually sense it and do a little puppy massage, get things moving around, and that usually works out. Or with Tonks, our Rottweiler, she gets pretty bloated, and
You don't need to go into details.
yeah, there's defarting. There's a whole defarting.
Lots of that. Lots of that. Yeah.
Well, chop that one out.
Yeah. But yeah. But yeah, animals, horses are very strange for me because they feel like people. When I meet a horse, it feels like a person. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I dig horses too. I'm similar. I like. I have a similar sensation with them. It's like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
What, you
But,
want some grass from the other side of the fence? You got it.
Yeah. Classic. Here you go.
Oh, there you go. And then you're
What
your
else?
best friend on that side of the
Yeah.
fence for at least that day.
Oh, and cows. Cows are pretty great too.
I've not interacted with cows.
Oh, you should meet a cow.
Okay.
They're wonderful.
Big dogs.
We have a friend that works at a hospital, and she invited us to come over, and that was really exciting for me because I was very interested in the medical field, and at the time was planning on going to school to become a nurse. And she had asked if I wanted to come to the hospital and see if I got any weird impressions, and I immediately wrote stuff down on a notebook, and I got to go into one of the rooms that they considered like the most haunted room. And some of the nurses had different stories of the same thing happening with a cart moving around in that room. And I had come up with a name that I had written down, and I showed the nurses, and they all went, "Nope, I'm out," because the name I had written down was apparently, I think it was what it was that she was a nurse that had worked there that had passed away. And I think she just kept going to work. I don't think she stopped going to work.
Oh, wow. That sounds like Stewart's Disney
Yeah, exactly.
thing, where the
And
one
I
ghost
loved
just kept
that
showing
story.
up to work all the time.
Yep, exactly. And so I think that's what that was. But it was a really creepy floor. I mean, hospitals in general. You
Right.
talk about getting strong impressions.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
From a room or from a building, and that was a pretty big one for me feelings wise, because of how big the hospital was and how many different things had been. It was a trauma center.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the only trauma centers in the area.
Right.
So, all
We have another
Terrible.
sensitive friend who was telling me that he can't go in that hospital because he sees shadows everywhere he turns. There's a shadow going this way or that way and all this.
yeah.
And it would stand to reason. I mean, there have been a lot of deaths in those areas.
Yeah.
And they found out there was a whole graveyard underneath
Yeah,
it.
and that was the other weird thing. There was a whole graveyard underneath.
I
Yeah.
read about that. Yeah, that was. Oh my God.
Right when they started to do renovations.
Hey,
The
there's
one
a,
hospital that needed the renovations too. But
Yeah.
That'd be why there were so many people walking around.
I wonder why. Haunted?
But, exactly. But you hear stories sometimes of people talking about haunted hospitals and there being, the one room that people just die in. And I never really thought that was a thing. I thought that maybe that was like people that just assume that graveyards are haunted. And I went there and I experienced it, and I can confirm that the hospitals are scary places. Spooky places.
Very spooky.
Hospitals and hearses and ambulances.
Yes, ambulances, hearses.
Hearses shouldn't be
For
because
some
you're already
ambulance
dead before you get there,
hearses.
but yeah.
Ambulance hearses.
Oh,
we had
hearses. I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you said Purses, like the little carry bags.
Oh no, that would be serious.
Haunted purses. Wow, there's a concept.
My specialty,
Sorry, Etsy
haunted
store.
purses. Okay. Sorry. Hearses, gotcha. Or the old ambulances, right?
He had purchased his first hearse when I was, I think, in middle school, and the locks would just randomly boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
And you'd suddenly get random smells that would come across in a hearse. Sure, smells, whatever.
Yeah.
But you get these random clouds of smell, and then the locks would start going, and the dashboard would start, doing wacky things. And I've only sat in that hearse a couple of times by myself. Primarily, my brother drove it, but I only sat in that hearse a couple of times by myself, and it was always something always happened. You look in the mirror and you feel like you saw something, but you don't want to look back in the mirror because you don't want to see it.
Right.
So that kind
you.
of stuff. But the new hearse that we have, or I should say the new old hearse, nothing.
Really?
Clean. Yep, nothing. I haven't experienced. The only cemetery that I've been to where I've experienced anything was actually in elementary school. And we went to the cemetery that I believe is at the top of El Diablo.
Mount Balding? No. What is it called?
Diablo.
Diablo? Mount Diablo? Oh, Mount
Yeah.
Diablo. Okay.
Not El Diablo, sorry.
Gotcha.
On top of Mount Diablo, yeah. And that was the really old graveyard. And as kids, we got to do charcoal rubbings of the gravestones, and I thought it would be a great gift to do one that said Dad on it. And so I came home with a big piece of paper with a charcoal rubbing for Dad. Here's a lovely gift. Here's a gravestone with your name on it.
Jeez.
But I got some creepy feelings from that one, and that trip with elementary school was to what they call the Black Diamond mines. So it was the coal mines.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, so that was a very tough one for me as a kid because I didn't have my support system of parents, and we had to go into all of these creepy tunnels and see. And they told us, kids your age used to do this.
Yep, that's true.
So all I felt were other kids, and
really?
Other kids. It was awful.
That must have been horrible.
At the time, I don't think I really realized the impact of it. It wasn't until I was older where I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe kids shouldn't be hanging around the grave sites at the coal mines. Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe that's not normal.
And you did Winchester Mystery
House. I did go to Winchester Mystery House.
I was just there the other day, but yeah, go ahead.
Here's my unpopular opinion of I didn't sense anything when I was there.
The psychic on my paranormal team says the exact same thing.
Nothing. The only thing I got, and I've heard stories of people that have worked there and do tours there, and they say, oh yeah, you see something creepy, but I think sometimes you want to see something creepy there, and perhaps people do see stuff. And I haven't seen all of Winchester Mystery House. I've only been on the tour, and maybe some things pop in and out. I don't know, but for me, I felt absolutely nothing except for a little something in the room where when the earthquake happened and they had to pry her out of the room.
Yeah, the wall slid over or something like that.
Yeah, and there's still the pry marks on the door.
Yeah.
And that's the only area that I felt any kind of weirdness. And it wasn't a person or anything. It was just a feeling of discomfort. And so, and I was terrified to go to Winchester Mystery House. I had avoided it most of my life because I was so worried that I was just going to be bombarded with awful just feelings and people and
because
stuff.
Of the hype.
Yeah. And then I got there and I'm waiting for something to pop up around the corner at any moment now.
Right.
And so I went in with bated breath and I came out just fine. Yeah.
So Stuart's story of the Winchester house all happened out in the garden area.
Yeah, and you know what? I've only spent a very small amount of time in the garden. But so many people have worked there over the years that I would not surprise me that somebody would be so attached to the building or the work that they did on the house that maybe they pop in and out, and maybe they're just always there and I just didn't really get a sense for them. But yeah, nothing.
Any place that's got that many people going through it all the time is going to have residuals from everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. And like you said, it could be cyclical. So it happens every once in a while.
Yeah. So I don't doubt that Stuart heard that voice, because I've heard similar things, not there, but in other places. For example, in my own home.
The one you're in now, or
the one I'm in now? I was sitting downstairs and it was like 3 a.m. and so my husband and I do this thing where we do camping downstairs, where we basically bring in the queen size mattress and put it on the floor in front of the fireplace and the TV, and we watch Star Wars and Harry Potter for like a week. And it was like 3 a.m. and Drew was upstairs. I didn't realize he was upstairs, but I heard, "Get off your phone," really loudly and in my ear. And I turned around to tell him to shut up, and he wasn't there. And I texted him and I said, where are you? And he's like, "I'm still upstairs," because he was playing video games upstairs. And I said, "I'm going to come upstairs now because I don't want to be by myself anymore."
Well, that would do it.
Yeah. And you know what? And it was right. It was very soon after my grandpa passed away. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it was. So the merry-go-round at Goblin's Glen is where we all work together.
Yeah, that was, just to let everyone know, that was in Los Gatos at the Oak Meadow Park.
Yes.
And the episode before this is Stuart told us that story.
Yes. So to corroborate with him, there was, I believe, an old man that used to work either with the train or with the merry-go-round. I would sense him every time I was there, and I can't remember what I heard. You might remember.
I don't know the story. All I know is I've heard the bell ringing when there was nobody there. That's the most common thing to have happen.
And
as the train is inside the thingy locked up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard that too.
Well, while the merry-go-round is all closed up and there's nobody there, we would hear the bell.
Wait, there's a bell in the carousel too?
The starting bell from the, when the merry-go-round goes around, there's a ring.
Oh, sure. Oh, you heard that bell.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's nobody there, and that thing would just go off.
That's crazy.
I also saw somebody standing at the so there's an organ playing, one of the, or like piano that has the pre-done music on it and it plays by itself.
Sure.
I saw somebody standing at it one time and it was playing, and nobody was working at the carousel at that point. I was just in there. We were setting up, we were putting hanging cheesecloth on the rails. Gotcha. And, to make it spooky. And I turned around, there was a guy standing there, and I was about to tell him to, hey, it's not open. And I turned back around, and he was gone, and then the piano stopped playing completely. And so that was one of those, I'm going to get up, and I'm going to walk away, and I'm not going to think about it anymore.
See, when you mentioned bells, I thought you were talking about the train bell. It locked up.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah. It's locked up. There's no one in there. The shop's completely closed up, and ding, 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 ding. That's it.
Yeah.
That's gotta be great. I would love that.
that whole park is just spooky. And I know Stuart talked about Sanborn Park. And I actually, as a teenager, got to work there at Walden West.
Oh.
And we were doing one of the nighttime hikes with the kids, and the kids all have to have their eyes closed and they have their hands on the shoulders of the person in front of them, and I'm seeing some strange things happening, and I'm thinking, is this something that I'm only seeing, or do I need a radio up front, or what?
What is it you were seeing?
Oh, just people, just wanderers in the woods, just wanderers, and I couldn't tell if maybe it was like a homeless person or if it was something more spiritual.
Hard to tell in that part.
It is hard to tell sometimes, but there was the few weeks that I got to work there, it was constant.
Wow.
I was constantly seeing something. Nothing else really stood out other than that, and the smell of decay. Only in one spot. There was nothing there. It was just the smell, and you never know in the forest, like if you're smelling something that might have happened. It's just, you just don't see it, but yeah, that wasn't great.
Did you also, from the Stewart episode, my experience there was I smelled hot garbage, like fishy hot garbage, which is a Bigfoot sign.
Oh, to me it smelled like death.
Oh, I know that smell too. No, it wasn't that smell.
Yeah, I was smelling rotting.
Yes.
Putrefying flesh. Okay.
Yeah. And you never know. It's nature.
Yeah, it's right in the forest, man. I mean, it's hard to say.
I saw some evidence of nature doing its thing there too, but psychic wise, spiritual wise, yeah, that whole park is a little creepy.
Yeah, that's.
I would not want to wander around by myself there.
Lots of flashlights.
Exactly. Daytime only. No more night hikes for me.
Right. I hear you. This started for you at a young age.
Since I was born, yeah.
Since you were born.
Yeah.
And you've seen the past through your mom and dad's eyes,
Yep.
which is amazing. You were. So that's one thing that amazes me. Much like the psychic that works with me, JJ Rose, she has always had her third eye open, is how she puts it.
Mm-hmm.
And she also had a nurturing family that brought her, comfortably through even the more difficult times in her life.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that? I don't know. It's hard to say. Did you ever have? I guess this is a question for both of you. Especially when you get into the junior high and high school area, you want to tell everyone everything about yourself. And did you discuss this aspect of your life?
Only with my best friend in 6th and 7th grade. And it was because she was into spooky stuff. And I told her some spooky things. And one time we were actually in the bathroom in junior high. And suddenly, we were the only people in there, and all of the bathroom doors shut all at once. They slammed, and we ran out of there screaming. So after that really opened up the conversation of, oh yeah, I've seen this before. This isn't new to me. But other than that, I pretty much kept it to myself because I was already the weird kid.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
And I wouldn't say people didn't like me. I would just say people avoided me.
I can relate.
Yeah, I was a weird kid. I said weird stuff, even if it wasn't about, anything spiritual. I was just weird. So I didn't really talk to anybody about it. I guess I did have another friend that we would do the no-no and mess around with the Ouija board. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, I didn't tell anybody. So people were actually really surprised when they turned on the TV and there I was.
Really? That's crazy. Well, it's good you're on that show, though, because I've seen that show. I've seen that episode, those episodes, actually. And it's like your dad said, it's a good thing. They lay it out all on the line. There's nothing hidden, really. It's a shame we couldn't see some of that stuff from off air, but yeah, that would have been awesome. But the show did a great service, not only to you as a psychic and the other psychics they helped, but to the world at large, the audience, educating them in the process of what it is to be psychic.
Yeah, and I think that I know that the show had gotten a lot of flack coming out where people were saying, well, this is scripted and all of these kids are being exploited and stop using these kids. And it's like, that's not what happened at all.
Yeah.
I was very comfortable. They did everything to keep us safe. They, protect us from people. Yeah, the worst aspect of that when it came out was my Facebook inbox. You're going to hell.
Oh, geez,
I
really?
remember from knowing you your whole life, you're going to hell. Or a family member, you're going to hell. That sucked. That was an interesting, and random people trying to follow you on social media. Or hey, can you do a reading? Hey, can you do a reading?
God,
how much do you charge for a reading? I don't do readings.
$1,000. Just overprice it, they'll never show up again.
I should have exploited the crap out of it.
And we know people who have.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but to me, it's not something that's a science. It's not something that's exact. And
I got to tell you the best part of this whole thing.
Okay.
I mean, I love the show. That was one of my most fun things to do with her is the show. They have you all dramatic and you always have to be frowning and everything. And they kept telling her, "Stop smiling. You
gotta look serious."
So that's the only thing that they try to keep going on there. But it was a party. The whole thing was really fun. But we went to Disneyland one time. And we went to Club 33 because we had a friend who could get us in. And we were there having dinner. And as we were leaving, somebody stopped her and goes, "Are you Vikki?" and we're just falling on the floor. They recognized her. They got their pictures with her. And as we're leaving, I said, "So you turned out to be the celebrity somebody else saw."
Yeah. I had my moment. I got to be the celebrity at Club 33. And afterwards, it was great because all of the cast members that were working there were kind of looking at me like, is she supposed to be somebody?
Yeah, is she somebody?
And I've only been recognized a few times, but to be recognized at Club 33 was huge for me. And I was sitting outside of the bathroom.
the ego boost,
Yeah, well, it was an ego boost until the little girl in the family came up to me and said, "Well, I don't know who you are," and I was like, "All right."
Like, okay, now you're humbled.
Snap. Well, thank you both very much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Tim Sedano, and this is Paranormal Insight. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. On Spotify, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under paranormal.insight.podcast